Buongiorno. Mark my words, Mel. Early by Christmas.
Even now, less than a score of years after the World War,
Hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact.
we shall never surrender!
This is the Militaria podcast, brought to you by your friends at Queen City Militaria, Wehrmacht Militaria, and SMG War Relics.
Well, boys, I'm full of Turkish food, and I think it's time to say, welcome to the Militaria podcast. My name is Joshua Doda. I run Queen City Militaria, and I'm joined this episode and every episode by my friends Dante Gambino of SMG War Relics.
Hi.
All right, off to a rough start. And Billy Kramer of WehrmachtMilitaria.com.
Hi, everybody. I hopefully have more. Hi.
Hey, guys. How you been? What's new?
This is so silly, you guys. I'm glad that we're doing this, of course. What's new? I'll tell you what's new. Oh, fuck, dude. I just got done with a kid's 6-year-old birthday party today, and it sucked the life out of me. We had to go to a fucking bowling alley. And, yeah, like 16 kids running around with their parents. And then, of course, like their siblings just show up because parents don't know what to do with them. So they just bring them even though they're not invited. You got all these kids. It's pure chaos. And people are like, I want more chicken fingers. My ball is stuck in the lane. And I'm like, oh, this is just fucking chaos. But
Jeez,
you know,
man.
it was fun. Other than that,
Is that why your hair's all greasy?
yeah, I wanted to look presentable because I'm meeting a lot of parents for the first time, and I want them to think I'm not a dirtbag. You know, I'm not showing up in sweatpants. So
Yeah,
do
Moose
my
will
hair
do
up
that
a little
to a
bit.
person. Yeah.
Do my hair
Right.
up a little bit, make myself presentable. Hey, you know, how are you? I'm Valentina's daddy, you know, doing that.
It's
kind
very
of shit.
typical, I think, for the New York guy to be like, well, if I grease my hair up, I've classed it up for the day. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I
what
think there's
should
a
I
lot
do?
of people, bro. There's a lot of people named Valentina whose dad's also got greasy hair. I'm just throwing that out there.
And that's that's absolutely fine. And they're probably from New York or New Jersey, and that's probably
Did you
fine
have
too.
adult beverages and adult food, or just?
Oh, I did because, and this is a little disagreement I had with my wife because she's like, "Oh, we're just gonna get like 4 pizzas for the kids," and I was like, "You can't do that. There's gonna be a bunch of parents hanging around because they're 6, right? They're not like old enough to totally like just leave.
Get out of my car.
Right.
Yeah, you
right.
can't really do that with a 6-year-old. So the parents are hanging around and they got nothing to do, and we're trying to be social. So I'm like, listen, we need a couple of freaking pitchers of beer. We need some nachos. We need some regular adult food. So, you know, we had a couple different things. We had a nice spread. It was nice. Yeah, it cost me a G note, but it was a good time. It was a good time.
Damn, dude. It
Worth
sounds
every
like it's
penny.
on par with the best Chuck E. Cheese birthday I could ever ask for.
Listen, what I like about this place in particular is for Delaware, it's got the closest thing to New York pizza, believe it or not, at this bowling alley. It's pretty darn close. I've had shittier pizza in New York for sure than this place, and this is the best in Delaware, in my opinion, for New York style. So I love that alone was worth it for me. It's worth the cost of
right.
entrance.
Okay. So Dante, you if I'm remembering correctly, you recently had kind of a big deal go down. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Oh yeah, I was just walking down the streets of Savannah, you know, as the old Billy Joel songs go. What the fuck? Something just fell. No, I was actually on a little mini 3-week vacation in Savannah, Georgia, just enjoying the weather down there, and I got a little text message. And I don't know if you guys get text messages from potential leads, but sometimes I do. And they usually are fraudulent. It's usually like, oh, hey, here's a picture of something really cool, and I can't prove to you that I own it. So I got to play the game of,
Right.
does he really have it or doesn't he? Send me a picture of it in your hand with the date and your name, and is it photoshopped? Isn't it?
And all this via text too, so a huge pain in the ass.
Huge pain in the balls. And I'm not in front of a PC, nor am I going to be near a PC because I'm not on the clock technically. And but yeah, it's the lady sends me a picture of this huge spread of daggers, and I'm like, oh Jesus. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to pay attention to this one. Because sometimes you can blow them off and wait, but on something like this, I was like, all right, I got to put a little effort into this because this could be big. And
Yeah, daggers are hot.
well, I mean, just the size of the collection alone, right? And so yeah, I put a little work into it. I said, listen, hang on, let me try to get you an estimate. And I said, you got multiple tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff here. So can you just hang on? And the lady was like, yeah, sure, no problem, whatever. So she was nice enough to wait until I got back to the office on Monday. But on my plane ride back to Delaware from Savannah, I was doing the math, and I came up with a couple of numbers. And so as soon as I got in the office on Monday, I shot her an offer, and we went back and forth just a little bit. But then she was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. You know, when can you?" I was like, "Well, I can fly over there." It was in Minneapolis. I was like, "I'll fly over there to pick it up, and I'll drive it back." She's like, "Oh, good," because I don't want to ship all this stuff. And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to throw that into the equation." So she's like, "Oh yeah, you could come out like, you know, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks." And I'm like, "Nope, I want to be there like yesterday." Because you know how these deals go. I'll be like fishing around trying to figure out some details, and then Billy Kramer will swoop right in there and be like, "Oh, these are my daggers now, boys." You know,
Bill has been known to buy some daggers.
so yeah, no. So I jumped on a plane, and like within 48 hours, I was there, and I was in the great state of Minnesota. I never thought I would have to go to Minnesota for anything, but there I was, and it was a nice, smooth transaction. The people were fantastic, and when I got there, I could really see the detail of the collection. So it went from just being like, oh well, I'll just bid the price based on like what I see, which is like, you know, some army daggers and some you know, some basic daggers and basic swords, and but still a lot of stuff, still a big number. And when I got there, like every other dagger was like an etched piece or a special version of something or something fancier. So you know, it was a huge home run. And we did a box
Nice, man.
opening, and we saw some really cool stuff, and stuff's already been selling off the website, so it's good.
Well, you know what, man? I'm gonna put a link to your video of unboxing this stuff in the description of this video, and also I got a hot tip for anybody that's flying into Minneapolis. If you have a layover, there's a secret observation deck in the airport, and I say secret because it's unmarked. It's just up a stairway, no sign. You just gotta have faith and do it. But it hasn't been updated since the 80s, and there's never anyone up there, so you can just kick back, watch some planes, hang out. That's my advice to you, Bill. What's new with you, pal?
Nothing other than I woke up and I have this this mark here in my forehead. You see that? That's new.
Yeah.
And I think that's from reading dumb customers their emails. I get a lot of those. So recently I didn't have any great scores like Dante. All of my emails and tips were just like frowning at people like, what? Why are you messaging me like that? And yeah, so that's what's new with me, is that I'm getting old and developing lines in my face from this business.
Damn, dude, customers are giving you the stress wrinkle?
Yeah, definitely a stress wrinkle. I had a guy today, we went back and forth over, he wanted to cancel a $39.99 order, and it invested about 6 emails, and it was stupid. And
6 emails
yeah.
over $40?
Yeah, dude, it was just like, bud, just come on, man, just drop it. It's $40. Like, okay, like you can't just cancel your order and pay with a different method. It was a nightmare. It was just stupid and silly. But no, sales have been awesome. I've sold 2 SS visors for almost 10 grand.
Terrific, man.
In the last week. And I had one of those BDM pennants. I had another one come in, and this one was from actually an Austrian unit, which was kind of exciting. And the same guy who bought my last one actually is buying this one. So he's got 3 now, which is kind of a cool thing, because in theory, for a big event, they were all together. And now they're being reunited in this man's collection. So I kind of dig that, you know, a lot of years have passed, but they're getting to see each other again, you know?
Absolutely, man. It's also just cool to have like such a focus on your collection. I feel like, you know, it gets real hodgepodge with a lot of people, myself included. So when somebody has like a real big, you know, focus on BDM stuff or Hitler Youth stuff or whatever, like it's cool to see that at all.
What's going on with you these days, buddies? How's everything over there?
Dude, honestly, I had the last 2 days off. I've been working a ton of overtime, and this has been the busiest 2 days that I've had off in so long. So today and yesterday I've been recording bass for a record that me and a couple guys wrote when I was out living in Oregon. I was in like a doom metal band, so we were playing some real like heavy, droney, like slow, but not always slow metal. Anyway, Now we're doing the postal service type deal where like we're recording it from across the country. So
Yeah,
they
you
send me
put it
tracks and
back,
I got to
yeah.
record mine and send it back to them. Right. So I spent the last 2 days doing that. And also, I had to get everything together for tonight's show because there was a decent amount of research, or at least a decent amount of effort that I had to go through just to organize my thoughts on it. But right before the show, Carmen says she wants to go out to dinner. We roll on down to the local Turkish restaurant. We get some Monty, have a beer. I'm full of Turkish food. I recorded an album. It's done. I don't got to worry about it anymore. And I'm ready to talk about tonight's topic. So we're doing something a little different tonight. I know you guys already know. The listener doesn't know. The viewer doesn't know. A lot of our episodes are focused on German stuff. German stuff is, by and large, the biggest section that there is in the Militaria community. I, as the viewers may know, and as you guys know, am in a Soviet phase. I got a lot of Soviet stuff. I've been collecting it for a few years now. I'm enjoying the research aspect. So I thought, let's do an episode where we can focus on here are some things that you're going to encounter in the wild, stuff that you've probably seen on people's tables. And here's how to not get absolutely fucked on it. Like, I don't want you to get ripped off. Like,
You don't want to pick up
coming
a
into-
Soviet cactus, and just
No, cactus, no.
No, exactly. Like I see myself as very much like a German collector that now collects Soviet stuff. And all of my, interpretation of value and all that sort of stuff comes from stuff I learned from collecting German stuff. And so now that I've learned enough to tell people, hey, don't buy that. That's not from World War II or whatever. I'm like, we can put this out there.
I think that the Soviet thing, you're talking about, they did obviously the Soviet Union existed for a long time after the war, and it's kind of like American collecting. The thing people like about the German stuff is that it stopped 1945 for the most part. They stopped production, so you can date it. They didn't keep cranking out the stuff except for a couple known manufacturers of awards, Steinhardt and Luke and Suval of Vienna. Anyway, where I'm going with this is, like American stuff, the Soviets kept cranking stuff out and reissuing stuff. So I wouldn't know what I'm looking at when I look at anything, if it's made in 1964 or 1944, and that makes all the difference. So I think it's a kind of cool topic. This is not the German military podcast. I just don't really know much about other stuff. So the Militaria podcast, let's dive into some different countries here, bud.
Awesome. Okay, Bill. So everybody put your thinking caps on. We're going back to school. Now, I don't claim to be an expert on Soviet orders. Like anything that you choose to learn more about, eventually you reach the conclusion that there's a ton of stuff that you just don't know yet. But that's the fun part, and that's why we do this. So like I said earlier, I tend to approach Soviet awards with a lot of the same logic that I apply to German awards. I look for the quality of materials. I look for a multi-piece construction, the quality of the enamel work, whether the award is solid or hollow back. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can say are like, things that your eye picks out. In the German military community, though, I think there's a trend that people think Soviet quality is subpar, which is pretty far from the truth. I know we've discussed this in our own private chat recently. And if you begin buying Soviet orders with the mindset that quality is poor, I think you're much more likely to get taken by buying like a shitty reproduction just because you think that you should accept lower quality standards because of that thought process. So at the shows, Jeremy came up to me with a medal and he was like, hey, is this real? And I'm sure he just like got it in a lot or something. He didn't pay anything for it. But it was this like insanely rare Order of Kutuzov first class on a suspension. And if it was real, it would have been worth over $50,000 easily. Like this is the most deluxe version of an already incredibly rare thing. And that somebody that's like less reputable than Jeremy would probably market that as still a very expensive award and just say like it's in poor condition. Like especially if they think that Soviet quality is bad to begin with. So you have dealers and collectors both with this mindset of the quality subpar. And because of that, like there's a lot of mistakes that you can make, especially with the reproductions. And there's just a general misunderstanding of when things were awarded, who was eligible, and we'll get to that in a second. So if you're a German collector and you've taken an interest in Soviet orders, then my advice is to use the skills you've already learned to help you as you determine originality of whatever you're looking at. But today we're going to talk about stuff that I think that you guys have seen before and stuff that I think it's easy to get ripped off on. And we're going to start out with the Order of the Red Banner of Labor because it's a very attractive award. It's an award that I think people will recognize, and it's the kind of thing that like it catches your eye. It's got the enamel, it's got multi-piece construction, it's got some bright colors. It's a nice looking award.
Looks good. Looks good. Yeah.
Right. So we'll go through a few of them. We'll learn a few things. Let's dig into it. The Order of the Red Banner of Labor was one of the first decorations of the Soviet Union, being established in 1928, and it recognizes great deeds and services to the Soviet state and society. As a result of it being established so early on, it has changed appearance a few times, and there are quite a few variations of this award, but for this segment, we're going to split them into three categories, which are screwback awards, flatback awards, and ringback awards. Screwback awards, like this one, are going to be the earliest examples and also the most valuable. There are two different designs of the screwback badge. This is the first design right here. It is an impossibly rare badge to find. I think if you find this, you're probably going to be paying somewhere around $25,000. I won't spend too much time talking about. I know 25 grand's a lot. And you see it and you think to yourself, man, would I spend 25 grand on it? You know what I mean? I'm not going to talk too much about this stuff. I have never even seen one in person, and I don't think that many collectors will experience it. I'd be pretty wary of it if you encounter it based on the rarity and value alone. So really check it and double check it with the most knowledgeable Soviet collectors you know.
Can we look at
The
the back?
second, Bill, as it turns out, I can show you the back of the Type 1 Order of the Red Banner of Labor. This
you.
is what the back of a screwback, the earliest screwback variation that you can find, the Type 1. This is what it looks like.
Look at that low number, and you're saying this is worth 25 grand if I see it and it's real, correct?
25 grand, pal. I'm telling you.
All right, I'm gonna
Call
find
your
one.
favorite Soviet guy. Don't call me. I don't know anything about these. The second design of the award is much more recognizable. These Type 2 screwbacks are still very valuable. They were awarded from 1936 to 1943.
Ooh, can we look at the back of this one?
The back of a screwback,
Yeah.
Type 2, looks just like that.
Huh. That's
Look
much
at all
more
them
of an
rivets,
attractive
dude.
design. Yeah, the 42 when that ended. I don't know why they put it on a ribbon. That's much more. I like it better like that. But goofy Soviets. What are you gonna do?
So you could expect to pay $2,500 or more for one of these, depending on its condition. And if it's an award with research, then just stack multipliers onto that estimate. This is another award I would probably be calling for a second opinion on. So when it comes to examples of this order, though, that I think that collectors will actually encounter, I'd like to move on to the flatbacks, because this is something that like is easily recognizable in the wild. It's not too much of a minefield, and it's also like it's good to know the price point, and it's good to know at least some quality to look for in these, because they look very similar to the very late production Soviet orders of the Red Banner of Labor, and we'll go over that too. So flatback awards in most cases are what I would consider to be a desirable award for the collector. Most flatbacks that collectors will encounter are from the early 1950s to the early 1960s. And because of this, they fall into the category of quote unquote Stalin era awards. If you're just listening, you can't see me make the air quotes. So it maybe like a swoosh, like that's where they go. But there were several variations of the flatback awards, and I'm not going to get into every single subvariant. But one tip that I will focus on is when you look at the reverse of a flatback award, you always want to make sure the mint mark has been applied with a punch. The only exception to that would be in the very early awards of this type, where a rotating tool was used to hand inscribe the mint mark. So here is the back of the award, and you can see two different mint marks here. One that is like a half circle, and the other one that's just two lines. But these are both nice original flatback awards. I would say that, in my opinion, without any research or attribution, these are probably like $150 to $200 awards. And if you can get your hands on a flatback award for under $100, then I think that you've done well.
I have a question really quick. It is a very attractive design. And when did this pattern come out? Is this the post 1943 version?
So the flatback award that we're looking at here would have been awarded between 1943 and the early 1960s, with the only slight variations that you'll find on these mostly just being on the reverse. As I said earlier, like you'll see some of the very early ones have a hand applied mint mark. That'll be the difference between a $200 award and like $1,000 award.
So The previous version was a screwback and it was a badge. And then in 1943, once they beat the Germans at Stalingrad and they were preparing for Kursk, they're like, let's make a medal that's easier to wear on a jacket and ditch the badge. Am I understanding that correctly?
I
Oh,
honestly
got a
have
website.
no
Thank God.
idea.
No,
I have
you don't.
no idea like what spurred the change. I'm sure there's information out there, but this actually happened with a series of awards, like the Order of the Red Banner, which this is like the civilian counterpart to. The Order of the Red Banner was a badge, and then it went to a suspension award, just like the Order of the Badge of Honor was a badge, and then it became a suspension award. It was definitely a design trend at the time. At the very
The
least,
Germans also did things like that. There's the first class fire brigade, and then it was a badge.
right.
I believe there's Godet and Dessler were makers, and then they switched to the ribbon version for the first class. It was still gilded and gold, but they went from the badge to the smaller. And I mean, the badge is so predominant, and the ribbon is not, obviously.
Right. Well, and so you see those sort of changes in the way the award is worn. You see like small design changes over time, and that'll happen here, just like it happened in Germany. Of course, it happened for a lot longer period of time because we're talking about an award that was awarded basically until the collapse of the Soviet Union. So you can expect to see some changes. So after the flatbacks, what we're going to start talking about is the ringbacks. Ringback awards were produced from around 1966 until the 1990s and the collapse of the Soviet Union, and they are the most common examples that you're going to find. If you are remotely interested in this award, then you got to focus up right now. These awards are by and large not worth more than $75. There are variations of the ringback which will be worth more, such as like if the hammer is positioned in front of the sickle rather than behind it, or if the hammerhead and the sickle handle are touching. But honestly, I would still try to get them for the price of the most common variant. You can confidently bet that some guy casually selling some Soviet medals is not going to know the details that make each and every subvariant more valuable, and that especially applies to these later awards. But what I often see is these ringback awards are in the cases of German military dealers at shows who are looking to get rid of items they probably picked up in auction lots. And I often see them marketed as World War II era, and they're priced at some insane, like $200 price tag. Don't fall for it. Like, shop smart. If you're buying a Soviet award from a dealer who doesn't specialize in Soviet awards and you've gotten this far into this episode of the podcast, then you probably know more than they do. If you hang around on eBay and you wait for your chance, you can pick up one of these ringback awards for under $50. I have one on my website right now. It is actually this one on the left, where the serial number was scratched off on the back. And if you like it, it's only $45. You can collect these on a budget, and you can still have money for rent.
Can we look at the back of this? Okay, so the back.
Hey.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, we got the backs on this one. So yeah, the ring back, you can see why I call it that. It has that like ring indentation around the center. And then as you can see,
none of these are World War II era.
Not a single one. This would have been post 1966. And also there's a crazy phenomenon. I'm not exactly sure of the dates, but I remember reading about this at one point where like 200,000 or something of these were all awarded on the same day. Like, it's a very widely awarded civilian order. Also awarded to military members, but, you know, predominantly labor, culture, contributions to things like that. So another award that I see on a lot of dealer tables, and I saw this at the SOS, is the Order of the Patriotic War. And specifically, I see a lot of the Jubilee orders from 1985. From 15 feet away, the 1985 OPW looks indistinguishable from its World War II counterpart, and because of this, they're often sold for World War II prices. So quick background on these. The Order of the Patriotic War was established on May 20th, 1942. It was awarded for heroic deeds performed by soldiers of the Soviet Armed Forces, security troops, and to partisans. It can be broken down into another 3 course groups, because that's what we're doing today. The suspension, the screwback, and the Jubilee.
Okay, this is the earliest version. So this is 40s?
42.
We're looking at 1942 to 1943.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I won't dig too far into these as well, because again, it's a more advanced topic, and it's a much more valuable award, and it's something that I don't have personal experience with. Here's the back. I got these pictures from SovietOrders.com. Shout out SovietOrders.com. Thank you for the free pictures.
this pattern was only from 42 to 43.
Just 42 to 43. And because of that, and just the limited circulation of this suspension variant, you can expect to pay like $1,500 to $2,000 or more from a dealer, and that's a completely unresearched award.
I have a quick question. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but okay, so the number that's on the back of this, that's a soldier's number, so all of his awards would have the same number in theory, or no?
No, that's they're
Production
sequential. Number? Yeah, it's sequential as to when they were given out. So the earlier the number, the earlier the award.
Okay, so it's not a soldier's number, it's more a production and issue.
Correct.
Screwback examples of the OPW are much easier to find in the Militaria market. They are multi-piece construction awards. On the reverse of the first class awards, you'll find gold spokes, and on second class awards, you'll be able to easily recognize the rivets that hold the hammer and sickle in place on the center of the badge. So this is a second class that I have from my own. Actually, this one's on the website. This one's for sale. And if we flip it to the back, you can easily see multi-piece construction. There are the rivets that hold the hammer and sickle on.
Huh, how about that?
Here's a first class award from my own collection. I already talked up looking at the back of one. Why don't we try that? Here,
very impressive.
Up here in the corner is the gold spoke sort of design that we were just talking about. So World War II awards, first class, this is what you're going to encounter. So like with all Soviet awards, there are several variants, and I'm not going to cover all the variants and their differences here, but know that you will see differences based on the year of manufacture and the state mint that produced the award. Some variants, such as the fisheye, are more desirable, and you can expect a knowledgeable dealer to price them higher for that reason. Based on current completed eBay auctions, you can expect to pay between $150 and $250 for a standard second class award. A first class award is going to be more expensive. I see them in the range of $600 to $700, and I think that's like probably, I mean, you're looking at eBay prices, so that's what people are willing to pay right now. It's probably a fair representation of the market. But the absolute most common version of the OPW that you're going to find is the 1985 Jubilee. So here's a picture of a World War II era first class on the left, and next to it is the 1985 first class Jubilee. You can see with them next to each other, there's a huge difference in quality. There's just like, you have a cast single piece award in the 1985. The enameling's not as nice. The detail's not as fine. Obviously the World War II award, separate hammer and sickle, the gold rays behind it are their own spoked, secondary attachment when they're manufacturing the badge. If we go back, you can see the back of the 1985. Very simple. Just you're gonna find unreasonably high numbers on them, and that's because the 85 Jubilee Awards second class was awarded to every surviving World War II veteran. First class was awarded to World War II veterans that sustained wounds.
Yeah, and they've got that really modern Soviet, late model Soviet finish, I guess is how I would describe it. It's just more modern looking. It doesn't look anything like the old stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if the tone, I've heard the word Everbright used to describe it, where like the gold always looks like cheap and chintzy, and it always stays that same very like flashy gold. And I think you're going to run into 1985 awards that have that kind of look, or like this one, they'll just tarnish in really shitty ways because, looking at the World War II one, just the quality of materials is so much better. You see a much more natural patina. But, I mean, these are incredibly affordable. They're really widely circulated. And in my opinion, you should try not to pay more than $35 to $40 for a second class and not more than $60 to $75 for a first class. And you can add some value if the award comes with its original document, but don't go crazy. Dealers frequently price these Jubilee Awards as if they are the more valuable World War II examples. I mean, at the SOS, I found a ton of these that people had marked up to like $250, just like strewn across the room, basically like hidden in Riker mounts, But don't get fooled. And honestly, if a dealer is pricing these awards so high, they're either ignorant or they're deliberately trying to deceive you. Because, I mean, I can't blame somebody for wanting to turn $25 into 250, but this is not a World War II award.
So, Josh, what are the World War II ones going for?
For a second class, you're looking at $150 to $250 just for like a standard variant, and for a first class, probably more in the range of $600 to $700.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to my personal favorite award and something I'd like to talk about. The Order of the Red Star. So, very common thing. Everybody's encountered them out in the wild, out in the military jungles. They're in a bunch of cases. And I think there's some knowledge out there about them, especially when it comes to like gauging serial numbers. But I'm hoping that we can clarify a few things and we can shine some light on the subject here. So, it was established on April 6, 1930, and it was awarded in recognition of great services in the defense of the USSR and to ensuring state security. It was awarded to soldiers, units, warships, organizations, and military personnel in foreign countries. Roughly 3.9 million orders of the Red Star were awarded, and it was awarded until the collapse of the Soviet Union. And actually, as a side note, it continued to be awarded in the modern Russian Federation for a little while after the fact. But we're not going to get too much into the weeds. A true soldier's award, the ORS, is not something that you will only see on high-ranking military officers, but also on that of enlisted men and NCOs. For me, that is a major appeal to collecting them and having them researched. So there are several different subvariants of the ORS, but unlike the other orders, its basic design didn't really change much over time. There are some variants where the medallion has a slight change, such as where the bayonet is pointing or where the facial expression of the soldier is, but generally speaking, variations are identified by features on the reverse of the star.
So, like, what do you mean, like his expression? Like he's really happy to like be holding that rifle in some, and then real sad in others.
Yeah, there is actually a variant later on where I believe his mood has improved. Like based on the reference book that I was looking at, and like hey, shouts out Andrew Resnick. I like your book. I know it's a controversial topic in the Soviet world, but yeah, there's like a later production Soviet Order of the Red Star where like he just doesn't look quite so upset. So things like the base of a screw post or how the mint mark was applied, whether or not it has rivets, these are all details to consider when it comes to Order of the Red Star variations. So like this is a much earlier variation, and then I pulled one from my own website. Here is a later variation where you can see there's no rivets. Just something to keep in mind when you're trying to assess the value of a red star that you're looking at your local Militaria show. So most ORS collectors will know to check the serial number on the reverse of the order when trying to assess both value and age. It's not a perfect system, but it will help you get a general idea of what you're looking at. Speaking broadly, I would prioritize serial numbers of 2 million and under if you're looking for World War II specific examples. The general rule that I follow for my own collection is if I can pay $80 or less for a standard 1 to 2 million range wartime Order of the Red Star, that's always a win. At that price, you can still add research and not lose your shirt in the process. And as a dealer, I usually price these unresearched stars in the 1 to 2 million range around $100. And once you get over the 2 million range, you start to enter into the territory of long service awards, which I'm sure you guys have heard of, or in passing, this is always like, oh, this has a higher serial number. It's probably just some worthless long service award. From the end of World War II to 1958, the Order of the Red Star was awarded for 15 years of meritorious service. And there's nothing wrong with a long service award. You can still research the awardee, but you won't be uncovering a wartime citation. The proverbial wrench in the works here, however, is that the Red Star was also awarded for military actions during that aforementioned time period, such as catch-up awards from World War II, awards for wounds, or for the suppression of, like, the Hungarian Revolution in 1956. So as a general rule, you proceed at your own risk when you're buying and researching a post-war Red Star. When we reach the 3 million to 3.5 million serial number range, it's very likely that you've got a long service award with a slight chance that your order was awarded for wounds or as a catch-up, because at that point, long service awards are really taking up the majority of the bandwidth for the serial number range. And then from 3.5 to 3.6 million, it's possible to find orders that were awarded to veterans of the October Revolution, which, side note, are not currently researchable. Really, anything higher than 3.5 million is a roll of the dice, and only researching the award will tell you for certain what it was for, who was awarded it, and you'll get as much of the story as the Russian government will let you uncover. So if you do happen to find the rare Order of the Red Star that was awarded for a more obscure military engagement, like the 1956 Hungarian Revolution or the 1968 Czech Uprising or the Vietnam War or Afghanistan, then the value of the star will increase exponentially. And unfortunately, so does the price. There are resources available to help you identify what serial number ranges match up with their time of awarding, but research will always be king with establishing an exact award date. And this is all to say, do your research on serial number ranges, bookmark a couple websites that outline serial number ranges and their years of awarding before you go to a show. Just have that information on hand, because if you're going to be standing there at a table and a guy's got, a whole tray full of red stars and they're $100 each, and you're looking at them and oh, maybe this one's Afghanistan era. I'm gonna roll the dice on it and see if this is for actual combat operations or something. Like, you will have a huge win on your hands in that situation.
Can we look at friendly Soviet people wearing soldiers, and or is it just officers, or is it enlisted ranks as well?
Here you go, Bill. Here's a red star and wear.
Thank you. It's very reminiscent of the Gallipoli star that we have in Imperial Germany.
It's interesting. I actually had the same thought. It's that nice deep red enamel. It's the silver construction. It's really attractive award. This is a portrait that I picked up at the SOS. It came with a lot of other stuff. The guy's got, Order of Glory. He's got a bravery medal. He's got some wound stripes and what looks to be an excellent scout reconnaissance type badge going on there. Maybe excellent sniper, but he's got that red star right underneath his wound stripes. And it really is an award that was it was definitely not restricted by rank. I have a red star in the cabinet over here that is for participating in the harvesting of rice. You can get red stars for a lot of stuff, and that's one of the interesting things about researching them. Like, you just never know what you're actually going to uncover until you get that email back.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get the rice guy though. And also, it should be noted this could be like Lady Soviets too, right? And what did they get it for? Fighting.
I mean, they would be getting it for the same things that the men got it for. It was not restricted by gender, and obviously one of the things that, I mean, I learned about it in high school, so I'm sure it's pretty common knowledge. Women fought in the Soviet military, and they were also really good propaganda pieces. But it showed the combined struggle of all Soviet citizens, not necessarily based on gender.
Do you have any photos of hot lady Soviets or no? I would like to see them.
Bill, I actually do have a picture of some Soviet ladies here.
Oh.
Some Soviet female snipers with a ton of awards and wear. A lot of orders of glory, some bravery orders. We got an Order of the Red Banner over here. Some well-decorated ladies.
Yeah, no, yeah. Thank you for showing that picture. Very nice.
Absolutely. So that actually kind of sort of moves us into what I wanted to talk about last, which is researching. And I've talked to you guys a lot about researching these awards, and I've brought it up a few times on the show. And it's a really unique quality to Soviet awards to be able to actually find like the information of why somebody was awarded it, who they were, some of their personal information, and read their citation. And it's the kind of thing that you would want from German stuff, but there's no framework for it. But there's no reason to be mad about that. You can just collect Soviet stuff, and then
Don't be mad about it.
Don't be mad about it. You just collect some Soviet stuff, and you'll scratch the same itch. So people hear this, oh, we can research it, and they think, well, what does that mean? I see these people online, they're trying to like sell me research services. What are they actually doing? And really, like, they're just acting as middlemen. In most cases, they're acting as middlemen. You're having a guy that knows a guy, right? And his guy that he knows has access to the Ministry of Defense archives in Russia. So your guy places the order to look the serial number up of your award with his guy, and that guy over there, a lot of guys in this conversation, goes and matches up the serial number with a award record card, and boom, you've identified your vet. Most researchers will usually offer to digitize and translate the information from these archival documents for an added fee, and in my experience, completely researching and translating an award card and a citation will cost you around $60. And it's important to remember that due to a myriad of reasons, not all awards are researchable. Citations may essentially be classified, or there may not be a framework in place to access that information, which is the case for most civilian labor awards and things like that. What I'd like to share with you guys now is a couple little research pieces from my own collection, if you want to hear some World War II stories.
I would like to talk about WWII stories. I also want to say, I think it's actually cool that the Soviet shit can be researched, because with German stuff, beyond the blood order and, the gold party badge set, like, you don't get a lot of that research potential of like who wore this badge and what did he do. So it is kind of like a cool thing that you actually can find out the majority of the time with Soviet stuff.
Absolutely. That's like the one thing that kills me when it comes to German stuff is like
Not
you
the
would
communism.
want to know. You'd want to know. You'd want to be able to be like, what was this Iron Cross awarded for? You know, I've read combat diaries from guys like Otto Carius, and they talk about what they did to be awarded their Iron Cross second class. And you think, man, how many of these stories are just completely lost to time? You know what I mean? They'll never be told again, maybe outside of the family, and then even eventually then that stops. And so having the like Ministry of Defense archives and a lot of digitized archives online available makes it so much more tangible. Like you really get to feel that history.
That's a good point about bringing up the curious, the autobiography, like in the memoirs, unless you had that to go off of. I mean, I think you shared in chat one time, we were talking about somebody who's rolling over troops with tanks, and that's like in his typed up documentation of their actually describing what he did.
Bill, I don't know how you read my mind, but that's exactly what we're going to talk about first. So this Order of the Red Star, I picked it up at a local military show, the Bay State Militaria show, actually, down in Massachusetts, first Sunday of the month, if they hold to a schedule, and they usually don't. It's beat to hell. It looks like shit. And I was like, well, at least I know this guy's not going to ask for a lot of money. And I was like, what are you looking for on it? And he said $30. And I was like, it's worth $30 in raw silver. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And it's a pretty early serial number. It's 355278. And I was like, you know what? You know, I talked to my buddy Alex, handles all my research. Shout out Alex. And I was like, let's run it. He comes back to me and the citation. So this was awarded to a guy named Gusain Abdulovich Gasanov, who was a Azerbaijani guy. His citation reads, taking part in battles for the villages of Gutertal and Darmstadt, driver mechanic Sergeant Gasanov skillfully drove his tank on the attack, crushing German soldiers and officers with his treads.
Wow.
With his crew, I know, right? Just writing it up like that. It's just so, oh yeah, he crushed a bunch of guys. With his crew, he destroyed 2 vehicles, 2 trucks, 10 wagons, 1 depot, and 40 German soldiers and officers. He deserves the government award, the Order of the Red Star. And that's signed by the commander of the 432nd Tank Battalion of the 101st Tank Brigade, Captain Mashkarin.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't qualify for a higher award than that.
You got to crush more Nazis to get the higher.
Crush a bunch of Nazis. It's funny, like going through this and you read it and you're like, oh, wow, 40 people, 10 wagons, 2 trucks, 2 vehicles, 1
lot of
depot.
stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. They list it right off. And then I actually agree with you. I was having this discussion this week about, award criteria, because there are so many times where you'll see a citation and it'll say, oh, deserves this award. And it'll actually get upgraded or it'll get downgraded from what the suggested award was. And yeah, in this situation, the officer decided, he deserves the Red Star. He ran over 40 German guys. And interestingly enough, this is the only award, aside from a victory over Germany, that this soldier was awarded on record during World War II. So he got a victory medal.
Do you know anything like that?
Yes, I can tell you that he did. And I can tell you that after the war, he lived in the city of Baku, in the village of Pershagi. He had a middle education level. He was born in 1923, and his military rank at the time of filing his award records card was a Guards Senior Sergeant. So again, it's a $30 award. Run the number, and it comes back as a combat award for like tank operations. It's a great reason to research an award.
I would like to say, when you mentioned $30, man, and like, first off, what could the guy possibly be making when he's selling this for $30? Like, and it's cool something that old survives and is only $30. I mean, my opinion with a lot of Third Reich stuff, like I find it, in my opinion, it's rare to find affordable Third Reich military, but there is stuff out there. There's stamps, there's postcards, there's tinnies. There's something for every budget. And you're talking a step further. You can collect Soviet stuff. You got $30 in your pocket. Like you've mowed a couple lawns as a kid. Go buy some Soviet shit. You don't always have to go after this stupid pricey Nazi stuff. And it's just kind of cool that it is affordable.
Dude, I completely agree with you. And honestly, the price point was a huge part of why I got started because I saw some nice quality stuff and we've had the debate about quality, but I saw some nice quality stuff and I was like, well, if I was buying something comparable to this on the German market, I'd be paying 2 to 3 times the cost, you know? And then once you find out the research angle, you're like, well, I saved the money. I could still research the award, get a full backstory, and it's still cheaper than what the German equivalent would be. So it fits Soviet collecting. It fits your budget if you're down with doing it the way that I'm doing it. If you want to get into the $50,000 awards, then we have different mindsets on this. So the other award that I wanted to tell you guys about was given for significantly more dead Germans. We didn't talk about the Order of the Red Banner today, but this is an Order of the Red Banner, and it was a huge win for me. I picked this up at a local military or a local antique store in New Hampshire, up on the Vermont border, a few years ago for $40. $40 is ridiculously cheap for an award like this. The Order of the Red Banner is a very high award. It's fairly valuable, and because I spent so little on it, I just thought, well, why would I stop here? I have to research it. So again, I called Alex up, and this is a pretty cool one. So this order was awarded to Grigory Petrovich Pershin, and it's got a pretty serious citation on it. So from April 4th to April 17th, the enemy launched fierce attacks with superior forces 18 times against Hill 950. Located in the forward line of the trenches, he accurately corrected the mortar battery's fire against the enemy's firing positions and concentration points, as a result of which the enemy suffered losses and hastily fled. While repulsing enemy attacks, up to 40 Hitlerites and 5 enemy machine guns were destroyed by fire from Senior Lieutenant Pershin's mortar battery. On 30th of April 1945, while conducting offensive operations against the city of Kadka, you guys know Kadka?
Sure don't.
Cadca. I don't know. News to me. The
I'm gonna
mortar
look it up real
battery. Okay. The mortar battery, acting together with the infantry, helped to destroy firing positions and sowed panic among the enemy with its fire. And here, too, the enemy could not withstand the onslaught and ran. When Senior Lieutenant Pershin opened fire against the enemy, 35 slain Germans were on the field of battle. He ensured the battalion's success in battle and deserves the government award, the Order of the Red Banner. So, altogether, this guy, here he is. This is the veteran, because when you research awards, sometimes you get a portrait. And in this portrait, I'm lucky enough to have him wearing the award in the picture.
Very cool. Very cool.
Killed 75 Germans, Hitlerites, as it were, with a mortar battery.
I looked up CADCA, right? That's what you said?
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's a Slovakian. So he was in the Southern Front going up. He was not Battle of Berlin. He was, kick him out of the Slovakian region.
Dude, he was cleaning it up out there.
Yeah.
He had to get rid of 50 Germans and 2 machine guns. But all this is just to say, again, you send somebody $50, you find yourself a reputable researcher, somebody that you can work with, send them $50, they come back, you get a whole story, and this medal that you paid $40 for at an antique store is now fully fleshed out with a portrait of the guy that was awarded it. He's wearing it in the portrait, and you get to know the entire story behind it. And it's just, you got to think, when was the last time this was even shared?
Can you just zoom in on the ribbon, please, so I can compare it to a Hamburg Hanseatic cross, because it's the same pattern. I just want to look at the edges. So it's different loops on the edges.
Yeah, it's not a German ribbon. It's
No, I know it's the same pattern. It's just kind of cool to see the differences. Because obviously the coloration.
It is the same pattern.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, just a couple of examples of researched awards. If researching awards is something that you're interested in, I would definitely recommend it. You feel like that Indiana Jones spirit that we already talk about so much on this show, and you get to really connect with the item that you have, because that's what I always struggle with, is being like, yeah, this is cool. This Iron Cross is cool, but it's cool in the same way that, like, if I hold an ancient Roman coin, it's cool. I don't know who used the coin. It's cool that I can touch it and that I can hold it in my hand and it's a tangible piece of history, but man, wouldn't it be nice to know what they spent it on? You know what I'm saying?
Well, Josh, that was good stuff as usual. Well thought out and researched on your end. I like to hear the perspective of Soviet collectors because it's not something that is tangible for us every day. Being dealing with mostly this German stuff, and I have to resort to. I got this like big Soviet orders book that I go into, and but it's everything's very much out of context. I don't really know the minutia of it. I try to learn, in the book it'll tell me, this from this date range to that date range is this and that,
Right.
there's really not a lot of context there. So having something like this where you can kind of dive into the particulars is very helpful for me and for other collectors as well. I would assume, and not for nothing, I think that these kind of episodes should push people into the Soviet awards just because of really how cool they are and how underappreciated and undervalued they are.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. I really appreciate you saying that, but I couldn't agree more. And, if I knew more, then I would share more details. This is definitely meant to be like a quick and dirty guide to not getting ripped off and at least knowing what you're looking at when you see it on a table. But it's good information. It's just stuff that I've picked up over the years and stuff I've learned from other people. And, I'm hoping that it saves somebody from losing their shirt on a Jubilee Award or something like that.
What are your favorite references online for, I don't know, for research or just like trying to learn the ins and outs of Soviet stuff? Because I feel like there's not as much out there for the English speaking community as there is with the German stuff.
Dude, there absolutely isn't. I struggle with this all the time, and I want to lean heavily on GMIC again. I love GMIC. I think they're probably one of my favorite forums, not just because of Soviet stuff, but because they also just have a lot of guys that collect weird shit. Like if you want to learn about Yugoslavian awards and you want some references and you want to see a table that says like when the Order of the Partisan Star was awarded, based on the year or how many were produced by the Soviet Union or whatever, like that's on GMIC and it's easily searchable. And so I'm always going to point people there. And then I know that the Andrew Resnick books are controversial. Like he's definitely borrowed some pictures. He's definitely quoted some people, and there's some credit that needs to be given that's not being given, and there's some information that's left out. But those books are a great reference point. If you're starting out, you want to be able to identify things. You want to be able to at least know like most of the variations of the things that you're looking at. So I would always suggest those books, especially if you can find them for a deal. I mean, when he first started selling them, they were like $100. I think you can get them for like 40 now, especially if you keep your eyes peeled. So they're nice. They're hardcover books. They're full color. So, we've talked a lot about Soviet awards tonight. It's a little bit out of our wheelhouse for what we usually cover, and I appreciate you guys listening, and I hope that you learn some things that can prove useful. But as a little bit of a palate cleanser, maybe we play a little What's on Your Desk? So, Dante, old greasy Dante over there, I see you,
Oh,
buddy. I see you,
hey.
pal.
Oh.
I'm hoping you got something cool on your desk to show us.
I mean, you caught me with my pants down, buddy, but I got a little. Can you see that? That's
The Teachers League.
an NSLB, National Socialist Teachers League
Boon,
fund boond. Yeah, it's a lesser seen enamel, so it's kind of fun to have something like that.
Absolutely,
And
dude.
little lesser appreciated guy. It's $100 badge, though, I think. So
For
happy to
sure.
have that. I got a little SS supporter pin, a little Deschler action.
Wow,
there.
you buried the lead, dude. You were like, yeah, I got
Woo!
this teacher's pin. SS financial supporter.
Whatever. So couple little things, little enamels. I like little enamels. It's money in the bank, son.
Well, yeah, and they fit great in a 6x10 mailer. Bill, what do you got on your desk over there, pal?
Also, I've never been caught with my pants down before like that. That's a weird thing. But anyway, I don't have much on my desk, but I do have this guy. He's got the first pattern, and what's I guess hard for my camera to see, but you got the verdigris and you've got the indented eagle in the leather. Like, can you see how he's in the leather there? It's been there
yeah.
for a minute. And I think that's cool. And he's got a little verdigris. I can't move my camera correctly, but anyway, that's what's on my desk. And look, that broke, so that's hanging out by a thread. So yeah, this
Oh
is
no.
literally what's on my desk, and we're gonna. It's a size 57, and we're gonna try to sell it for money. That's what we do.
Yeah, money's good.
Yeah, that's
Dude,
what
I'm
we
sure
do.
somebody will exchange U.S. currency
Yeah,
for that.
yeah,
Maybe
US
even a
dollars
euro.
for motorcycle crash helmets. Yeah, I think it'll happen.
It's a nice helmet, and it is cool to see the eagle so embedded in the leather.
I myself have an NSKK uniform display in my personal collection, and I'll send you a photograph so you can be like, here, it's right here. And so I don't need to keep this one. I already have one, and it's also a first pattern. And I have gauntlets as well, and it's exciting. And I think I'm bleeding from I don't know what, but anyway.
Oh my gosh, dude, it's
Great
dangerous to
episode.
record a
Great
podcast.
episode. Can't wait to not talk.
Whoa! Let me round us off with my
Oh.
desk, pal.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was rude of me. That was totally rude. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine, dude. I've hand selected from my desk a pretty interesting little piece for you guys today, and it is the Hitler Youth Horsemanship Table Medal.
Ooh.
I didn't know that was Hitler Youth related. Is it? I thought
it was
SA.
SA. Yeah, I thought it was SA too.
I'm pretty sure that it is awarded by the SA to the Hitler Youth. At least on the back it says Reiter Jugend, Young Riders.
You're right. Yes, young riders. Yes,
right?
sir. Yep.
What a heck of a fucking medal this thing is, dude. It is like
a big one.
It's heavy, man. It's got strong. Look at that eagle. That is a strong looking eagle on that.
Yeah.
I'd love to see one in a case. I don't know if they ever came in cases, but that's
sure
what's on
did,
my
big guy.
desk right now. Did they really?
Oh yeah, buddy.
They came in cases.
I think
That
they were
was a
tan
big
or
fucking
green.
box,
I don't know.
dude. All right, well,
Forgive
I
me.
don't know, but I'd love to see it. And if you have one, then I don't know. Leave a comment or something. Anyway, boys,
Tell me about it.
this has been a great episode. Thank you for letting me rant about Soviet stuff. If you watched this episode and you thought, hey, man, Soviet stuff's kind of cool, first of all, thanks. And second of all, leave a comment, because if you want us to explore some other realms of militaria that are not just German, we can do that. But we got to know that you guys actually care about it. Or otherwise, it's just me talking at Billy and Dante, and they're just yawning and drinking beers. And it gets difficult. Not for them, but for me, because I'm like, they're not paying attention to any of this, dude. I'm just yelling into the wind. So
also to the viewers, real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off, but if you have that table medal, don't send us a picture. Just say you have it. That's all. We just want everyone to be like, I have one. I have one.
Yeah, just leave it, guys. Say, I have that. I'm not. Don't prove it to us. We believe you. This isn't the Soviet Union. There's no trust but verify. We're just gonna straight
You're
up
not gonna
trust
cut your
you
hand
on it.
off.
You're fine. You're fine. We appreciate that you're here. So, without further ado, that's the end of the show. We got together again. We did it again, boys. My name is Joshua Doda. I run Queen City Militaria, and I've been joined here by my friends Dante Gambino of SMG War Relics.
That's me. Thank you very much. Good times as usual.
And Billy Kramer of WWII.com.
Thank you, Josh, for all that Soviet knowledge I didn't know. Definitely like looking at the Lady Soviets. That was kind of a cool thing. And as much as people want to learn more about other stuff, I don't know about anything else. I've only been that German kid. People are always like, why don't you know about Vietnam and stuff like that? Because you can only know so much, and that's why it's easier to specialize and kind of create that little buffer in 1923 to 1945, and that's what I do. It's easier to.
But with our powers combined, we all make one whole person that knows everything.
Everything. Oh, sure.
That's it. Everything. And the viewer, as an extension of watching this video, knows everything as well. Anyway, guys, this has been a fun time. I'll talk to you later. And yeah, go buy some Soviet stuff, dude. Put a red star on your backpack. Freak the
what is your
neighbors out.
website in case anyone wants to find some Soviet stuff to buy?
Oh, once again, dude, I run QueenCityMilitary.com. I have a shitload of Soviet stuff. I have weird stuff like this great Lenin plaque over here in the corner. I got flags like this big flag over here in the corner, and all the medals that you saw on the show today.
Awesome stuff, man.
All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.